Hey everyone, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I'm Elizabeth and this is Crystal Clear Creations. So, I thought that we could make some Christmas ornaments today. I've been on a Christmas ornament kick lately, and I have to apologize if you can hear the yapping that is taking place in the house. My son just got home from work, and my dog is going bonkers because, she's a Chihuahua, and that's what Chihuahuas do. Anyway, getting back to what's going on here. So I thought we would make some ResinCrete ornaments, and then we can put some temporary tattoos on them. And then I also found these incredible rub-ons that we can also put on there. They are so cute. So let's do this. So ResinCrete is measured by weight, not by volume. So in order to use ResinCrete, one, you need to have a scale. But two, you need to know about the volume of your piece. So since we're doing 7 of these little ornaments, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a plastic lid and put the ornament in it, fill the ornament with some water, and that way we can determine what the volume is of that ornament. And then ResinCrete has this absolutely fabulous calculator on their website. So you can just figure out what the volume is, because when we zero out the scale and we add the water, that's what the volume is. And then we just go to the website, type in, the volume for this is X number 27 grams, and then it will tell you exactly how much powder you need and exactly how much water you need. I always bump it a little bit. So like, for example, if your piece takes 27 grams, I always say maybe it takes 28 grams, so that I bump it up just a tad bit. And the reason I do that is because it gives you exact measurements. And sometimes with the exact measurements, you're having to really scrape, because sometimes, right, it's stuck on the side of the bowl, it's stuck on the bottom. So I try to pad it just a little bit. That way I don't have to worry about having enough. I'd rather have a little bit too much than not enough. And I forgot to mention that the reason I put the ornament in that lid was because when I poured the water in, if I tried to pick up the ornament that's full of water, it's just going to go everywhere. So if you put it into another container that you don't mind getting water in, the water can just spill into there and it's no big deal. So with ResinCrete, the other pieces, you really want to measure your water first and then put your powder into the water. It mixes a little bit better. And the other piece of that is you have the ability to sieve your powder if you need to. ResinCrete's powder is great and it's very fine, and I typically find you don't need to sieve it. However, I will say that the more, I buy ResinCrete in large bags, right? And so sometimes it gets a little bit of moisture in it, especially because it's in a space that's not climate controlled. So it can get some moisture. Every time you open it, a little bit of moisture is going to get in there. And so the more you open it, the more moisture that gets in. And so sometimes it can get a little bit clumpy. And so if you sieve it, you'll just be able to get all of those clumps out, and it ends up being this like fantastic powder that just mixes in really easily. ResinCrete doesn't have the longest working time. It has about 10 minutes or so. And so I usually mix for about 90 seconds just to make sure that I get everything mixed in really, really well and that everything is incorporated. You don't want to have any lumps or clumps or anything like that, because if you do, it will mar the finish of your piece. You'll be able to see the clumps on the piece when you unmold it. And after you fill your piece, I would start by filling your piece about halfway and then give it a good shake just to dislodge any air bubbles that might be hiding out on the bottom. ResinCrete's great about letting off its bubbles. However, just like with anything, you want to make sure. So make sure that you just give it a good shake. You can run a dotting tool around the edges just to ensure there are no air bubbles hanging out there. On my piece, my table was a little bit uneven, and so I just took a popsicle stick, which is the cheater's way, I guess, of propping up your piece to make sure it's all even. I have a leveling table. I I don't know why I didn't use it. And just in case you get anything in your mold, you can always use a piece of tape. Remember, silicone it needs to be treated gently. And so if you have anything that's in your mold, it's best just to use a piece of tape to get that out. Try not to rub it, try not to scratch it, because anything that you do to the finish of your mold is going to show up on your piece. I'm just going to finish pouring these, and then we'll let these cure for about half an hour. That is the great thing about ResinCrete, or really any type of eco resin, is that they cure super, super fast. So half an hour or so, we will demold. It's been, 45 minutes to an hour. I got caught up in another project and then something else came up. And so now I am finally ready to take these out of the mold. And it's important to take any type of your eco resins out of your mold relatively soon after they're cured, just because they have moisture in them and that moisture sweats out. And so you just want to make sure that it has the ability to let that moisture off. Otherwise, it'll never be fully dry. And if you happen to have any bubbles along the edges or any type of just weirdness, this is a great time to sand your pieces. Most of the directions say wait 24 hours. However, I tend to not do that, because right now when you're demolding is when it's most vulnerable, and it's the easiest to sand or to use your craft knife just to kind of get any air bubbles out. And because it is vulnerable, you want to be careful, because especially the thin pieces, they can break easily during this time. It takes 48 hours, 72 hours, depending on the temperature of your room, the humidity, and all of that, for these to fully cure and to reach optimal, I want to say hardness, but I hate the way that sounds. Optimal, fill in whatever words you want. Wait 48 to 72 hours. Also, if you're going to do anything like paint them, add temporary tattoos, which we're going to do, anything like that, you want to wait for a good 3 days just to make sure that all of the moisture is out of the pieces. And I overpoured just a tad bit, and so I am just taking my craft knife and just digging out the overpour there, and it comes out so easy. I highly recommend, if you're going to sand your piece or do anything that you need to clean up around it, if you do it right away, it really does make a big difference. It is vulnerable, so just be gentle with it. Okay, so I am just going to let these all cure for a few days. I'm actually going to take them into the house and let them cure in a warmer environment so they cure a little bit faster. And I'll be back to you once they're all cured, and we'll make some magic happen. It's been about 3 days, and I can't wait to dive in and see what we can do to make these incredible. The universe was totally looking out for me. I had a package that came in the mail, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and I hadn't opened it. And then by chance, I just opened it, and there were all of these amazing holiday rub-ons. They're the ones where you just lay them down on the surface, rub over them, and then they transfer. And they're so cute, and they're perfect for pastel Christmas. They are pastel pink and green, and they are just absolutely adorable. The only thing is they are a little bit bigger than the actual ornament itself. The ornament is about 2 inches. These are just a little bit larger. Some of them are a lot larger, but for the most part, they're just a little bit larger. So when we put them on, that's okay. We can just cut off the excess. And then these are the temporary tattoos that I think we're going to use. Most of them are fairly small, so I think I'm just going to cut them out and put different pieces together. And let's get started. And I have to apologize if I sound really super scratchy. My daughter decided that it would be really fun to bring home a cold. And so we've all been sick for, gosh, it feels like forever, but I guess it's only been a few days, but my goodness, it feels like forever. Anyway, so I went through, I cut these out and made them all fit. And the other thing that I've noticed about these rub-ons is that they don't like a cold surface. So I will go through and use my heat gun and just heat up each one of these before I put the decal on, just to give it a nice warm surface. And then I will also heat up the decal just a tad bit, maybe 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds, just until the paper starts to curl just the tiniest bit, because the decal itself also does not like to be cold. I mean, go figure. To be completely honest, I'm not a big fan of freezing either. So if you run into that issue where you go to pull your decal off of its backing and it's not sticking to the transfer film, just hit it with a little tiny bit of heat, and that will make sure that it's stuck to the transfer film, and then you can just put it down on your piece. And when you stick it down, just give it a really good press down with your fingers. And then I will generally use my Cricut tool, my little scraper tool that comes with your Cricut, just to make sure that all of the ink and everything transfers over to the ornament. You can use whatever you want. You could use a stick. You could just use your fingers if you wanted to. But if you start to peel up the film that's on the top and you notice that there's still some ink on it, just push it right back down and use your tool again and just push it down and it'll stick. It's actually pretty amazing. One of the things I really like about these is that you don't have any of that extra pieces of like the outline. Sometimes if you do washi tape or if you do any like a water slide, sometimes you can see the outline that is kind of around your image. And with these, you don't have that, which I absolutely love. And so because this was a little bit too big, I did take my craft knife and just cut off the excess, which was fine because it was just a little bit of the snow. So it was absolutely no big deal. And I think this looks so absolutely adorable. Once epoxy is on here, it's going to be absolutely perfect. It's going to look so great sitting on a tree. All right, so I'm going to do the others the exact same way. I'm just going to heat them up, put them on, and cut off any extra. So I will do that in super fast forward. And then once we get to the tattoos, I will come back to you and we'll do those. All right, so all of the rub-ons are finished, and how adorable are they? These are so perfect. These are going to be amazing under epoxy, and put a little bit of glitter on there, and they will be everything that I have dreamed of. I can't wait. So let's move on to the tattoos. So we've all done temporary tattoos, either us or our kids, and they're super easy to do. I think the most challenging part of any temporary tattoo is to remember to take off that protective film. I cannot tell you how many times I have forgotten to do that. Because if you don't take off that protective film, once you put the water on it, the image that's right here is going to actually adhere to your protective film, and then you will not be able to use it, which is quite frustrating. So all you need to do is take a paper towel, saturate it with water. Don't make it so wet that it's dripping out of the paper towel, but just add the water to the paper towel and then hold that over the backing for a little bit. I don't know exactly how long. It kind of depends on how much water there is in your piece and all of that. So I would say give it 30 seconds, and then you can just check it. You can see if the backing slides away easily from the image. If it does, then it's ready. If it doesn't, then just put it back on. And you could always add a little bit of extra water if you feel like it's not sliding away easily. And I think that these look so good. The glitter in the image is just divine. Oh my gosh. And the thing I really like is that you can barely see that outline around the image. And once we put that under epoxy, that outline is basically going to disappear, and you're not even going to be able to tell that it was once a temporary tattoo or a sticker or anything like that. I'm just going to do the next few the exact same way. So I will fast forward you and I'll be right back. All of these are finished and they look so good. Oh my gosh. These are so perfect and so easy. And I think we'll give them a couple of days to dry just because the temporary tattoos, they use water. So we'll give them a couple of days to dry. And when they're fully dried, we'll epoxy them. And just like that, they're all done. Imagine that. So I'm going to take some of these little tiny plastic cups. They are, I don't know if they're a half ounce or if they're an ounce. I can't remember. They're the ones that you would do Jell-O shots from. Not that that's what they were used for, but if you ever in like the 1990s did Jell-O shots, these are about the same size that you that we would have used, back in the day. Honestly, whoever thought that Jell-O shots were a good idea? Anyway, I digress. I mixed up the J-Diction 4-hour fast cure to top coat all of these. I mixed up way too much. I needed about an ounce for all of them, and I mixed up, I think, 3 ounces. So I was a little ambitious on how much I thought I was going to need. But to top coat, so easy. Make sure you're using a high viscosity resin. So when we talk about viscosity, we're talking about how thick it is. So if it's a low viscosity resin, that means it's a very thin resin. And if it's a medium, then it's somewhere in the middle. And then, of course, if it's a high viscosity, then that means that it's a thicker resin. So a 4-hour resin is going to be typically a higher viscosity. Also, like a tabletop resin is going to be a high viscosity, and those are usually really good for top coating things. So all you want to do is just pour a dollop in the middle and then just drag it to the sides. You can use a silicone tool, a dotting tool, whatever makes you happy. Just drag it. You could honestly even use your finger, your gloved finger. You could use a gloved finger to drag it to the side. And as long as you're taking it just up to the edge and you're not actually pushing it over, then your resin's going to stay where you basically put it, which is kind of amazing, actually. I'm not really sure how that works, but I'm sure it's some sort of like really amazing physics thing that I totally don't understand. Actually, there's so much science that is behind resin. It's kind of incredible. Anyway, I'm going to top coat all of these, and I'll be back to you when I'm finished. I complain about fast cure, but it is actually pretty great considering that it's been less than 24 hours and these are completely finished and they look so good. The top coat with just a little bit of crushed crystal made all of the difference. This little cat one, my daughter has already claimed and taken it off to her room. It never even made it to the Christmas tree. She actually stole it and it's now hanging on her wall, which I guess I shouldn't complain about considering that she's a teenager and if she likes anything that I do, then that's probably a good thing. So all we want to do now is put the ribbon on and then we'll be finished, which the ribbon, this is the easiest part of all. I have so much ribbon, it is ridiculous, but I couldn't find exactly what I wanted. I wanted something pink or something like a pastel green, and I couldn't find anything. So I just opted to go with this really light, kind of white shimmery ribbon. And all I did is just push it through the back using a micro brush and then just tied a knot in it. And it worked out really, really well. I will save you all of the excitement of watching me put ribbons through all of these, and I will come back to you when all is said and done. And here we go. They are all done, and I love each and every one of them. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. Please hit the subscribe button if you'd like to receive more content like this, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.